what I see in this kind of situation is a really, really big opportunity to develop something. Yep, so my name is Iiro Lindborg. I'm from Groke Technologies. I'm one of the founders of the company, and then I also have another company called LBRG Consulting company, which is focusing on maritime consulting and especially on autonomous shipping. And then I'm also acting as an advisor for a company called Groke in addition. In Groke, we provide solutions for maritime and also towards autonomous shipping. And the solutions we provide are awareness systems. So it's basically machine vision based systems for our customers that will help them in navigation, and it's to support the crew in difficult conditions. And the basic purpose is to increase the onboard automation and the intelligence on board the vessels and help the crew. Yeah, so Groke Technologies is based in Turku in Finland, and LBRG is based here in Rauma, and I myself live here in Rauma as well, but I do commute to Turku on a more or less daily basis. Of course, now with this situation, I'm currently working from home remotely, so not going to our office at all. And Groke also has 2 other locations, so we do have employees in Tokyo as well, and in London. So we have in 3 different places. We are a fairly new company. We started operations in September last year, so we haven't been in operation less than a year so far. Before I was in charge of the R&D work for Rolls-Royce for autonomous shipping, and there we developed a lot of different interesting things. And then after the purchase of Rolls-Royce by Kongsberg and the merger of those entities, a couple of colleagues and I decided that it's time to continue the same development work and form our own company for that. And that's how Groke Technologies was founded in the beginning. And we see that the challenge is still the same that we had with Rolls-Royce as well. So shipping today is really quite dangerous, and there's a lot of accidents happening globally. And we believe that increased automation will be helping a lot of the crew on board the vessels and making it more safer. And there's a lot of benefits coming from that as well. And then the industry itself has a lot of different kind of challenges. For example, in long term, there is predicted to be quite big of shortage of crew. So there is a big demand on getting either new people into the industry or doing something with the existing base of employees so that you can utilize them more efficiently. And that's where we believe autonomy will become, and more increased automation will become very important in maritime. And that's the background. But in the beginning, we will be focusing only on advisory systems. So these are solutions that will help the crew on board the vessels in decision making. And the solutions are based on sensor fusion, so machine learning things and sensor fusion. And basically, we're developing similar systems that self-driving cars use, but for maritime environment. Surprisingly little. Because by default, because we are located in multiple different locations, so that means that we are used to working in kind of a remote way. So we're using a lot of online meetings and online tools in our daily operations already. So in that sense, it didn't have any effect. But then during these past 2 months, we have hired new people. So there are team members who we haven't ever seen before who have joined our team. So we have only seen them in Teams meetings. So it's been interesting to get new team members on board. And then I think one of the things what we have seen is that now we have actually better access to experts than we had before. Because we're using a lot of suppliers and we're doing a lot of, for example, coding and development work with Finnish SME companies. So now, because some of the big players are now putting everything on hold, So there are really, really good talents available. And because we are still a small company, so and of course we are kind of a startup company still, so it's for us it's a bit more difficult to get those best guys into our work. So we have seen this as a positive thing in that sense. And because we are not delivering any solutions or any products at the moment or yet, so we haven't seen any effect on that side. We do have delivery of some demonstration systems and data collection systems to Japan. So for those, we have seen that there's been a slight delay in component deliveries. But overall, I would say that we haven't suffered from this situation that badly. Well, our partners, we have seen, for example, with our main partner is Mitsubishi Corporation. So with them, we have seen the effects this has had on them. And in a way, it's been good for us because everything that has been happening in Japan has been kind of 2 weeks before that is hitting Finland. So we've been able to kind of prepare for what's coming. And they started, for example, the isolation and stopped all the face-to-face meetings before we did here. And we've got kind of insights from them as well, how to prepare in different ways. But otherwise, what we have seen is what I mentioned before is this, that the supplier side is now, there's more experts available, and we are now utilizing that. So now we're discussing with multiple different companies and building up expert teams who will be helping us in long term as well. So we are making contracts with them and engaging the people we need in our work. Yeah, I've been discussing this with my my old colleagues from Rolls-Royce as well, and it has had a big impact already now in many different ways. Of course, one of the obvious impacts is in with the crew rotations, because you spend quite a long time on board the vessel and then you do a crew change. So we've seen that in that aspect there has been a lot of different kind of challenges that the companies are facing. But then on development side, some delays and some projects are put on hold and things like this, which were kind of expected maybe as well. So I would say that the impact on Maritime will be that some of the new technologies that were supposed to be introduced, the introduction time will be much longer now. And also to some extent, I think it will take some time for some areas of Maritime to kind of come back from this. If you take, for example, the cruise segment, there is a lot of rumors around that. No one knows when, for example, the Caribbean cruise lines will continue operations and the large cruise lines. And of course, they're building those also in Finland. So that will have an effect on the shipyard side of things. And everyone seems to be quite cautious on new investments as well. So I think before the situation started, we were in a situation that Maritime was booming on digitalization, and everything was kind of pushing everything forward. But now this has been kind of a timeout in many aspects. But I think we will return at some stage back to the boom. But maybe this is now a good time also to reflect that what is actually needed and what are just hype things. And I think this will bring more rationale to a lot of the development activities as well. I would say that this makes it easy to have meetings in different time zones. Well, it's normally easy as well. But one thing I would advise is that although you may have meetings in different time zones, it doesn't mean that you need to fill the times between the meetings with work. So if you have, for example, a meeting to US in the evening and meeting to Asia in the morning, then the time between, remember to take some time off as well. So don't just push on working during that time. And what I've seen and noticed, I think one thing is that people focus more nowadays in the WebEx or Teams meetings, because now it's the only way to have the meetings. So there's not that many distractions anymore, which I think is really good as well. and then one thing is just to use there's loads of new tools for example, for innovation work and collaboration. We have run multiple innovation workshops with our supplier in Japan, for example, on UX, and we've done posted sessions via online tools and everything else. So it works very well. Just don't be scared of using the tools, and most of them are free as well. I think it's for us, we have been kind of our own made approach for it as well, because during the time in Rolls-Royce, we globally recruited about 70 persons using mainly online tools and online meetings for recruitment. But yeah, it's usually the gut feeling that tells you what kind of person it is, who you're talking to. It's important to have a video feed just so that you can see at least the reactions. It's not fully same as face-to-face, but it's close to that. You don't get the same feeling, but you get at least you get the reactions, the feeling, kind of the emotions that they're showing publicly. And one thing which usually happens in recruiting situations is that the applicant is usually really nervous. So you can see when you have a video feed, you can also see the nervousness. So that helps you to understand some of the answers as well. So that if they're giving answers that you don't necessarily understand or know what it means, so you can just try to calm them down and kind of have a close to face-to-face collaboration at least. So I think, well, it's just one new way of interviewing, and I think this is the new way of doing it anyways, because teams are global, especially in our line of field. We have most of the applicants are coming from outside of Finland for a lot of the positions as well. So it's kind of coming to be the new trend anyway. So I think the way Finland has handled this has been really good. I think the support the companies are getting, of course, it could be done better in some aspects, but in a way, they acted fast. The first line of action was to provide this kind of support and funding opportunities, and I think that has been really good. And there is many different ways of getting funding and support. For example, for me, I'm getting from our local entrepreneur group. There is messages for who are kind of self-employed, or for companies with 1 or 2 employees, then for larger ones. So there's different kind of means and different options, and all of these are quite active on pushing the information out, which I see is a really good thing, and that helps a lot of companies, I believe. From our side, I think we have made the decision that we will not be applying for any of these supports because we think it's reserved for companies that need it more than us, because we are in a situation that we don't need it, because we are not affected in that sense, because for us it's more or less business as normal, and the only effect is maybe in internal communications and how we interact. So I don't see that as a reason for applying for this kind of support, and I want to see companies that need it apply for that, and not like unfortunately today there are some big companies applying just for their main normal R&D purposes. So I think that's kind of wrong thing to do. In the beginning, it was a bit frightening, maybe, but now over time, I think again, Finnish government has done a good job on informing people, and the thing is that what I like is that they're just giving guidance. So in Finland that we get this guidance that what should be done, and then it's left up to us to do it. In the first instance, people didn't obey, and they started to make their own shortcuts, so they had to make more drastic actions, and that's understandable. And now we're kind of getting the second chance, starting this next week and early June. So let's see how things go then. But I think the handling of issues has been good, at least from my perspective. I think it's been really good personally as well, because I normally travel a lot. So I've had the opportunity to be home and see my two daughters going to school here in home, help them when they need, and seeing the kind of happiness when they succeed in maths and understand and learn new things. So it's been, for me, I think these past 2 months have been really, really nice, and I've liked it a lot.
Yes.
And I think it's been also easy to balance the working life and with this kind of staying at home, because my wife is she has to go to work. So I've been home with the kids alone. So, but it's still, I think it's been really nice, and it's been easy to balance these two things as well. I think,
The balance.
yeah, I think over time what we will be seeing is that the people will now understand more the power of online tools. Because previously there were times that you need to fly, for example, across the world to one meeting, have 2-hour meeting, and then fly back. So I think now we will be entering an era where we don't have to do that anymore. So we can actually utilize more the online tools available and be more rational about when do we fly, when do we travel overall, and because I think when we go back to normal operations and normal meeting habits, we will be more effective in those meetings, because now we have seen how effective we can be online. So why shouldn't we be able to apply that same to face-to-face meetings and only arrange this kind of large gatherings when it's needed, actually, and not just to have always a lot of people just because we can invite them all. Yes. So I think that will change in going forward how we deal business and how we do business in future as well. And then one thing which has surprised me a bit is the reaction from big companies, because there's a lot of companies who are just seeing this again as one new way of kind of carrying out cost reductions and saving money. What is a shame I haven't seen, because this is a big opportunity as well, this kind of situation. I have discussed this a lot of my friends who are working in the media industry or media side. And I saw this as a really big opportunity for example, TV channels and traditional newspapers, because now this is the time when they have the opportunity to have this kind of audience, because everyone's at home, so they have the time to spend. But we haven't seen anything from either newspapers or TV. In at least the main TV channels, they're just showing reruns all the time, and then on the newspaper side, especially the online tools, we haven't seen any new approach. Everyone is still just pushing out the same textual information to same platforms that they have used. But now, because now they have had the opportunity to change it to more video format, more interactive, bringing new ideas, or at least develop and test new ideas. But everyone is just cutting down everything, so it hasn't worked as it could have been. I think in Maritime is the same as global, that there was a lot of talk about the environment before the COVID-19 started expanding. The worrying thing now is that everyone is discussing should everything be put on hold for a long period of time, which I think is the wrong approach. Because it's a lot of these new digital development solutions are related also to emissions and reduction of those, and mainly in Maritime there's a lot of activity on something called just in time, which means that the vessels would arrive to port when they need to arrive, instead of coming late or coming too soon. Because if they come too late, then that means that they need to speed up and burn more fuel, which causes then more emissions. And then on the other hand, if they come too early, then they need to wait outside of the port and have their engines running, so they're causing emissions locally a lot. So that it would be more of a optimized operations. And there was a lot of activities in this field. The activities are still ongoing, and some of them are being implemented as well. But I would like to see more of a radical approaches as well, because Maritime is really old-fashioned industry. So for us, internet connection, for example, doesn't exist on all ships.
Really?
So there's still a lot of companies are relying on very poor satellite communications when they're doing longer voyages and so on. So technology-wise, I'm hoping for a lot of changes and more radical approach, and maybe it requires some new type of companies to come into the industry, or some of the old ones just to take more bolder approach. But we'll see. But a lot of the kind of development work is related to emissions and environment in maritime, and I think that will be kind of the trend also going forward, and hopefully it will be not on too much.
Okay.
Regarding one point regarding this the support funding and how it was arranged. I think the approach was good and the actions were taken really fast. But one thing is that what I was missing was the kind of what kind of companies should apply for that. Because now we ended up in a situation where big companies are applying just to cover their own normal R&D purposes. So maybe there should be some future work done in that respect, that it's kind of a not necessarily everything for all model, like we tend to have here in Finland, which it's in some cases it works, but in some cases it's not the best way. So we should just maybe split it up a bit, for example, between different industries, have maybe a ratio type of split on the impact of the industry, and split the funding or the money available depending on that. And then the industry specific approval should be done, because what we see now, for example, is that there's a high demand on certain industries, but then on the other hand, certain are more than blooming at the moment. So, and on the lists that have been publicized, there's a lot of companies who are applying for this money, but then on the other hand, this situation is not affecting their business that much, at least, or not at all. So it's a bit kind of unfair situation that the approval principles are so loose, because it should be for the companies who actually need it and help those in need. Then from smaller company point of view, I would say also that one thing is a lot of these additional funding mechanisms are loans. And loan money, it's of course it's good that you can get a loan, but in a way it's not helping the company in the same manner. And at least some of the loans have quite bad kind of terms. So it's not beneficial to apply for this kind of support loans where you can get better terms from somewhere else if needed. And loan is always loan money. Maybe it would be better to have it through tax reliefs and kind of non-monetary input, more of another more innovative approach for helping companies out, which would be then benefiting them in long term as well. And what I'm afraid in this situation is that now that we are providing these kind of supports for companies and providing different kind of benefits, and then those will be put back in a year's time, most likely. And then there was discussion that then it will be kind of try to get the same money back through additional mechanisms. So will we see a situation that now companies are starting to prepare to sell them, so that you do the development work you need, and then when you see that all the cost or your internal cost will rise after a year, then you start to get rid of the company before that happens. So there has to be something done in that aspect as well, that doesn't happen. So and also I'm a bit worried that we will see that a lot of startup companies will not survive this period of time, but hopefully not that many will go bankrupt. I agree 100% with that. So it's innovation is now this time, because now you don't have the pressure. Well, of course there's certain pressure, and depends where your company is at the moment. But then what I see in this kind of situation is a really, really big opportunity to develop something and because now you have more time to focus on research work, and there's loads of research material available online, and you can run a lot of different studies now and look into, because you have more time. Just the basic thing that you're working from home means that you don't have to commute, you don't have to walk from meeting to meeting. So basically you have more effective time that you can use for research work and ideations. And I think this time should be spent on that, and hopefully it has been done. And hopefully we will see that there will be a lot of new ideas coming up. And this is also a good opportunity to see where the gaps actually are and what's not functioning, and address those.